in here and too excited. Will somebody sit next to AJ? And just in case that heart starts palpitating. You okay? What's the next thing?
I hope that's it.
All right.
No more club.
All right. I don't want to join your new club.
You don't want to join that.
Okay. Well, good morning. Obviously, really happy to have you here, and haven't seen the press for at least this portion of the press. I've been out doing my USA basketball stuff quite a bit, so I've been in different parts of the country, and but it's exciting to be back. Would like primarily to answer questions that you all might have, and I've been in Chicago, so if I say "use guys" again, then work with me. Our team, our Duke basketball team, we felt really good at the end of the year with all 6 of our kids graduating. We're excited about next week for JJ and Sheldon. JJ's had a little bit of a back injury that but has gotten a good prognosis. He should be back doing his interviews by the end of the week. And we feel good about both of them and their place in the draft, as we do about Lee and Sean, as far as their careers are going. They've done some really neat things. Lee is probably going to end up playing in Italy. I guess Melchioni should end up playing in Italy. I don't know why Krzyzewski never ended up playing in Poland, but maybe it's because he's better than me. And Sean will have an opportunity, hopefully, to at least be on a summer league team with one of the NBA teams. With the returning guys, the only guy who stayed here for the first semester of summer school is Jamal Boykin, just because he's trying to work on Spanish the whole year, trying to get the language requirement taken care of. He had to, actually, his grandmother's being buried today in Alabama. He had a death in his family. Otherwise, you'd be probably seeing him around. But a number of our guys now, most of our guys come back for second semester summer school, including our incoming freshmen. And that starts, I think, July 3rd. So they'll be around for the rest of the summer. One of our players, Lance Thomas, is trying out for the under 18 and under team, which I was just down in San Antonio meeting with USA basketball people and watching those trials with Jim Boeheim, the head of selection committee, so I was able to meet with him down there. And the other 3 freshmen will be coming in here. Lance will just be a couple days late, and DeMarcus will be back. Josh and Jordan Davidson are working our camp, and they'll be in second session summer school. DeMarcus, who else? Jamal will still be here. Marty's playing for his country's team, and who am I missing? Anyway, if they're not playing someplace, they're in here for summer school, and that's turned out to be pretty good. We've changed our concept in that we usually have had them stay right after school completes and not have them come for second session of summer school. But with the incoming freshmen coming in second session, it's more of a bonding experience if they're all here. We can't work them out or anything, but at least they're here. They get to know each other. The other thing is, it's a long year. We feel that if they should go home, right after school ends, and so I think it's working out better. You always look at changing some things around. So my staff has remained the same. There's nothing new in that. I've been really busy with USA basketball. We start gearing up for. I've been in a lot of meetings. I've been traveling to Phoenix for meetings and meetings with some individual players. Stayed away from Dwayne Wade. I felt if I even came close to him, I'd get burned because he's so hot. And but that's shaping up to be very exciting. We start that on. We actually meet in Las Vegas for a week of training, and we'll select 12 to 15 to go forward on July 18th. We'll meet there, train till the 25th, select those 12 to 15 to go forward, take about 4 days off, come back to Vegas for 4 days, have a scrimmage against Puerto Rico on August 1st, which is primarily for our troops throughout that area. We hope to have as many as 10,000 troops at that scrimmage. It'll just be for them. Then we're going to play Puerto Rico in an exhibition game in the Thomas Mack Center, which will, I guess, be unusual for the Duke coach to coach in the Thomas Mack Center on August 3rd against Puerto Rico. And then we'll go to China to tour there, play a couple exhibition games, go to Korea, play 2 exhibition games there, and we'll actually end up visiting about 25,000 troops when we're there with our team, and then go to Japan. We'll visit another 10 to 15,000 troops there, and then that's where we play for the World Championships. And I'll be back somewhere around the 3rd, 4th, or 5th of September. And so it's going to be a busy little guy, and but it's exciting, and I'm very pleased with that. It's kind of just to get you up to date with what's going on with us, and I just kind of like to open it up for any questions. Yeah.
Yeah, in describing the schedule, you're talking about the stuff in July.
Yeah.
I know that's a heavy, usually recruiting and evaluation month.
Yeah.
How is that going to impact you and the program and this?
Well, actually, it puts a little bit of strain in that during that first week, Johnny Dawkins will be with me throughout the whole thing. Johnny is going to be the player rep on the team, and he'll be involved with everything that I do with that team over the next 3 years. I just think he's terrific. He's such a valuable resource. And Mike Schrage, the director of our basketball operations, will also be with me throughout. The first week, Chris Collins and Steve Wojciechowski will serve as court coaches, like assistants to Mike D'Antoni, Jim Boeheim, and Nate McMillan. And Jim will bring 1 or 2 members of his staff, and Mike and Nate will bring guys from their staff also. So it puts a little bit of a strain on that, how many times you can go see a kid, during that time. We already have 2 kids committed verbally for that next class, and we're not looking to bring in a huge class. We may only bring in 1 more player if he's the right guy, and but it does set you a little bit back with looking ahead for the other years. So I'll have to do those Nike, Adidas, and ABCD, XYZ camps during that 1 week before I get going. So, but we feel we'll be all right because most of the time I'm missing is August. And if a recruit doesn't understand that, we lose them, then so be it. Then we probably should have lost them.
You didn't mention Greg Paulus and
Okay.
Emma McClure.
Okay.
How are they doing? How's
Good. That's why I needed help. I'm 59. That's why there are too many guys. I remember was at a luncheon. It's a long time ago, and Judd Heathcote and another coach was there. We had to introduce our teams, and the other coach couldn't introduce. I won't even mention his name. He says, "Yeah, well, all my guys stand up," and he forgot all their names. So I missed 2. And tell Paulus I miss him because that'll put him in a good spot. I want him in that spot. Paulus is still recovering from his wrist surgery. He'll be back for summer school. He'll be here in about a week. He's maybe 90% ready. He'll be ready by he'll be ready during July and August. He's had a really good summer. McClure has been down in his family moved from Connecticut to Florida, so he's been down in Florida, and he's doing well. He doesn't really need. He's going to have an extra year, so we're not worried about it. And he's real good, pretty good academically. But we expect McClure to help us next year. We missed him. We missed him last year.
Is he 100% then?
Yeah, I think pretty much. He actually lives real close to IMG down there, and a lot of these kids who've either kind of testing the waters or who have gone into the draft have worked out there. So he's kind of said, you need somebody to work out with. So that's been good for him. It's turned out to be very good for him.
Any other injuries while we're on that?
No, am I missing? I don't think, Wojo's been hurt again, and he's back. Wojo's been hurt. I'm not even going to say it. He'll get mad at me and beat me up. Yes, ma'am.
Can you be more specific about JJ's back injury and how
Yeah.
that might affect him in the draft?
I don't, well, he'll be okay because he has the doctor's go-ahead. What happened is, I think he had like a disc problem. These kids go on so many of these so-called interviews, and an interview is like an intense workout, and there are interviews, you meet with the people, but you may go on 4 straight interviews in different cities. You usually don't get therapy after, and all that night. I think it just had an impact on him, and when he went to Orlando, they have this combine there, where a lot of the guys who aren't drafted and who aren't projected to be drafted in the first round or late in the first round, they work out. Then they bring in the higher projected players to do physicals and interviews. It was during that he had a little back problem, and he had to cancel his interview with Orlando. He came right back here, met with Dr. Richardson. They give him a cortisone shot in that area, and it had a good impact, and he just needed some rest. He's in L.A. now, and they told us 2 days ago that they expect him to be ready to play this weekend. So as long as before the draft people know that he can do that, because he's had really good interviews, and we think he's going to be in good shape.
So is this a new condition or something that
Yeah, he's had, he hasn't had chronic back problem. I mean, he's played every minute. I told him, I said, your back's probably hurting because you carried me for 4 years, and but he'll be fine, And with those guys who are traveling around, a lot of their stuff is to strengthen their core, and so they have better support there. And that's a good thing to find out now, not in November or December when you're with the team.
And then can you just tell me how long, what's the time frame? Is it 2 or 3 weeks or when?
No, he'll be ready. I think he'll be ready to play this weekend
When did they first detect the injury?
in Orlando.
In Orlando?
That was like, what's today, the 20th? Probably about a little bit over a week ago. Yeah.
Herniated disc?
I don't know if it was a herniated disc. I wish I could give you a better, I'm not good at that stuff. My wife's in the back. Whenever I have medical questions, she usually says, what medicine did it? And then she'll say it, like, I guess that's from being married as long as we have. I rely on her a lot.
Do you want to make any comments perhaps on the DWI?
No, we're disappointed in that. There's no question. I've talked to JJ about it, and my comment the next, right away kind of puts it in. Obviously, we don't want anybody who drinks to drive. I mean, that's not acceptable. It's not legal. It's not smart, and it's not fair. And he understood that. He paid the consequences. I said, I was on the West Coast. I saw your picture in the paper this morning. It was from your mug shot. And I said, but that goes with the territory. You've had your picture all over shooting threes and getting honors, and he understands. And thank goodness nobody was hurt. He learned a lesson. He'll pay whatever price he has to pay. But I support him. I mean, he's a great kid. He's represented our school great. Kids make mistakes, just like you, and maybe you don't, but I do. All right, and you got to be there to recognize the mistake, take corrective action, and then get on with it. So move on.
Like you how do you talk to guys that make those decisions on draft day? I mean, any sense of whether or not that affects them based on what people are telling you about JJ?
The DUI, I don't think the DUI will have any impact, whatever, because it's not like that's his behavior. That's not who he is. So it's an isolated incident. If it was chronic behavior, then obviously it would have an impact. The clearing up of what his back, the good news we had this week, that reassures people that he's not, he's in good shape.
How embarrassing is the timing of that, given the scrutiny of the athletic program here right now?
Well, you know what? I don't know if embarrassing is the right word. I think, things happen. And when things happen, you should take responsibility for it. Do you want that thing to happen? No. Are things going to happen? Yes. Otherwise, you all wouldn't have anything to write about. I mean, things happen. I mean, I'm not saying bad things. Good things, bad things, and whatever. They're human beings. And so I think the most important thing that when a situation like that occurs is to take responsibility for it. You don't make any excuses. You're wrong. You regret it. You apologize, and you ask, what can I do now to correct that? And to me, that's not embarrassing. That's being responsible, because we're not going to be perfect. This university, this athletic department, and this basketball program is not about perfection. We're working with human beings, and we're human beings. Some things are going to go wrong, and when they do, figure out what happened. What are your responsibilities in those matters, and go forward. And that's what I would ask of any individual.
Coach, what are your thoughts?
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering how painful it's been. You're the face of this athletic program,
Right.
and you stayed largely in the background as this is all played out. First, why did you do that, and how hard has it been to you?
Played out, you're talking about the lacrosse situation?
Yeah.
Or the spring, our wonderful spring. Spending spring in Durham. Well, you know what? I think it's important for me to remember my place. I am the basketball coach. I'm not the president. I'm not the athletic director, and I'm not on the board of trustees. And don't want to be in all three of those situations. So you have to be careful to make statements outside of your realm. I guess my family say, we're poking your nose where you shouldn't poke your nose, all right? And I got a big nose, so if I poke, something crazy might happen. However, behind the scenes, I've tried to be very supportive of our athletic department, the coaches, the players, our president, and lend what board of trustees, lend whatever guidance I might or insights I might have into the situation. To me, the real story about this spring, without talking about the case, because that's going to be talked about. That's not what I do. Whether somebody is innocent, somebody's guilty, somebody's telling the truth, somebody's not telling the truth. That'll all be found out. I don't think you let that run its course. But the real big story here is I love our community, because for the last few months, a number of people who don't live in our community have come into our community. They've raised a lot of questions, which they're entitled to do, and could have provoked things that were not a part of this situation. There were other agendas. And our community is so darn good that they didn't allow it. Whether, I don't look at this as being a white community, an African-American community, a Hispanic community. I look at this being a great Durham community. I think the students at the two universities should be applauded, North Carolina Central and at Duke. Never was there any unbelievable behavior, extraordinary behavior. Rather, there was a calmness, and I think, whenever I saw the kids from those universities being interviewed, I said, these aren't kids. I mean, how mature are they? And I think a lot of that is missed in this whole situation. I do think that for us as a university, we have to always be mindful of the fact that the major reason why we are here is because of our students, and that we have to give our students support in whatever situation. You know, you have to be there to support them, to give them guidance, you know, just to be there and say, we're with you, you know, and, you know, that's what I tried to do behind the scenes, is say, you know, we're with you. We'll see what happens. And if you did, whatever happened, you did, then you should be punished. That giving support does not mean you're choosing sides. Giving support is what a university should do, whether it be North Carolina Central, Duke, Fordham, Illinois, Army, or whatever, because we're in the kid business. And that's what I've tried to do behind the scenes, and I'll try to do that throughout, because that's what we do. And I would have liked to have seen more of that. I also would have liked to have seen more of, you know, I don't like the remarks that sometimes are said about, you know, where's the place of athletics in a university? You know, it seemed like this was a good time to attack athletics, not just at Duke, but anywhere. And I think the people who do that are very narrow-minded in the total scope of what a university or a college does. You know, all the coaches that coach here are teachers. I write about 100 lesson plans a year. They're different ones than the one I used the year before. I then have a chance to coach games and all that, but we teach more than coach a game. We know our students very well, and the lessons that are learned on the court complement the lessons that are learned in the classroom. It should be a unified effort in an educational process. 10% of the kids who go to school here play intercollegiate sports. I don't know what percentage play intramural or club sports. Obviously, there are lessons to be learned from that. At the United States Military Academy, where I went to school, and I see that in universities, like it was a way of learning about teamwork, about spirit, about how to handle success and failure, how to be a complementary player, a star player, how to be loyal, how to communicate in a frenzied moment, how to communicate, you know, after, you know, to show compassion for. In other words, it's a crucible of real life things. That's what sports does. And to learn those lessons while you're getting the education that you get, the great education you get in an English classroom, a math, or whatever it is, that combination is a total education. And obviously, we have many, many great graduates of this university who participated in intercollegiate athletics, who are running major corporations, who are operating on people, who are defending people, who are counseling people, and to say that intercollegiate athletics is not an integral part of any university is so ridiculously wrong. It's so narrow-minded. And I'm glad that our administration and our Board of Trustees recognizes this. It also, at any one time, serves as one point where, I hope I'm not pontificating here, but since I haven't talked, you got me now. All right? It's kind of neat to walk into Cameron and see a few thousand of our students, graduate, freshmen, undergraduate, men, women, every race. They don't have to check their wallets to see if they're rich or poor or whatever. They all come in here and they're unified. It's a neat thing. That spirit helps permeate through many different areas in our school. You know, ask the hospital how it permeates through that. Ask the business school how it permeates through that. You know, through development, it's a spirit. You know, is it a line item? It's not a line item. You know, it's what I call a force multiplier, something that multiplies a good force and doesn't cost you anything. It just kind of sets a spirit, sets an atmosphere that's conducive to further education. And so I would like to see, I think it's good that we had all these reports and that. One of the reports that came in, criticized that aspect of it. But also, I think that it could be questioned that one of the persons in charge of that report, the Bowen report, that had already an identified agenda as to what that person has written about, and they've already stated that the so-called silo effect and and how we should do things at a university, and so I think that's a report that's skewed, to be quite frank with you.
Which Bowen's Chambers report?
Yeah, that one.
Bowen's Chambers.
Yeah.
You think it's skewed because he criticized?
No, they can do whatever they want with it. I'm just saying that if I did a report, what if I did the report? You don't think that somebody would say, well, it's skewed towards athletics? I just think you should have somebody who's balanced out. That's why I think the other two reports are, for me, they would hold a lot more water if they were containers, let's put it that way, than that one.
You talked about your behind-the-scenes support.
Yeah.
Share with us just your insight then from supporting everyone behind the scenes about what type of effect the allegations in the spring
Yeah.
has had to the athletic department as a whole.
No, well, first of all, it's a grave matter. I mean, so anything that would happen to that magnitude, or at least, people have said that it happened, it's going to tear a family apart a little bit, or it's going to it doesn't necessarily tear a family apart, but it puts an incredible strain. That's what I've seen, is the strain in our community, the strain for, just all the people involved. And you don't know how to make it go away, because it can't go away because it has to follow a certain process. And it shouldn't go away until that process is done. And basically, and I've been away a lot. Whenever I've come in, it's kind of like a fresh approach or whatever. I just try to add support and say, just run the course, whether it be, just saying to, my athletic director, I'm with you. My president, what can I do? With our lacrosse coach, who's a dear friend, and his wife, who are beautiful, beautiful people. Whether it's taking them out to eat, to have them over our house. We've done those things, and I'm proud of them. The Presslers are our dear friends. I don't know what Mike Pressler did wrong. In this case, whether he's judged in a whole other thing, that's another matter. But he's a good man.
Do you think he should not have resigned?
That's someone else's decision. My feeling is that he's here 16 years, and his players and former players and families swear by him. They've graduated, and now if they are not doing things according to what the university said, and that's another matter that they need to discuss, that was obviously discussed. But as far as my friendship with him, he's going to be my friend. Yeah.
Are you still literally serving in that special assistant to the president role, the formal?
Yeah, I don't know how formal it is. It's kind of been there, for a while since my last contract. It says special assistant. I don't know what that means.
You basically still serve with the president?
Yeah, basically, I think it means that we can have Mickey and I can have dinner with them or meet with them, and it's not like somebody then feeling that we're jumping the chain of command. You know what I mean? That there's at least this little bit of a direct route to it. And I think because of our visibility and our impact, we obviously have an impact on our university. I'm not saying we're the major thing or whatever. Obviously, we have an impact. And sometimes, direct contact between me and the president, whether it be with Nan, Keith. I was too young. President Sanford just told me, I was learning a lot. Not that I'm not still learning, but that's kind of grown into that. So I take that very seriously. I love my university. I love Duke. Duke is a great, great school. It will always be a great school. And in how it handles situations like this will determine how much more it can grow and how it will grow. But this is a terrific school. I wear my Duke stuff every day. I'm proud of being the Duke coach. Being the Duke coach has given me more than I could ever give to Duke. And I think as a graduate of this place, most graduates would say the same thing.
Chris, have you ever seen a time that was more trying for Duke as a whole during your time here?
No, this is the most trying time. And but it's just the way it is. I mean, if you're going to be in here for the long run, man, you're going to have trying times. I don't think that. I think that's just what happens. Whether it's a business, a family, a university. If you're in it for the long haul, they're going to be. There've been a lot more great times, and if you can't accept and handle the trying times, then you don't deserve to hold the mantle of what Duke has out in our national community, not just our Durham community.
Mike, I know it's a secondary consideration, but does the bad publicity in Dixon impact your program as you go out recruiting? Do people use it against you?
Well, people use the two things that people use most against us in recruiting are that Duke is too hard, okay, and that you're not good enough to play there. They have too many. Well, they have too many players, and so I always tell a kid, okay, so that guy's telling you that you're stupid and you can't play. All right, well, that's a hell of a compliment. Those are the two worst things. If you think you're stupid and you can't play, then you shouldn't come. Obviously, I'm recruiting you, so I don't think you are. In this situation, requires much more in-depth thing, and that is to say, look, we're going through a time. We explain what it is, and this is going to happen. The racial aspect of this. I think is in some ways has been the most sensitive thing, and people have tried to make it. They've tried to somehow create something that isn't there, in our community, because we have amazing race relationships. We just opened up a $7 million inner city center for low socioeconomic, that white, African American, Hispanic, or whatever. Duke Hospital never turns away anybody. They don't check your color or your bankroll or whatever. They don't turn away anyone. The mentoring programs that our students and our people do here, I don't see it. I mean, and that's why it hasn't happened. No matter what people have tried, and that's what we tell a recruit. It's not there. And when you come and visit, you think it's there, then don't come. But I mean, I'll line up our African American players over the years. I think basketball has been a part of the process of bringing the community even closer together because of the great kids we have. I mean, Chris Duhon and Jason Williams are going to run a camp at the Emily K. Center in July. 4 kids. I mean, Johnny's done amazing. When Tommy was here, Johnny's wife went to Central. She's got her law degree from Central. I mean, so I just don't see it, and that's why it didn't happen. Somebody was trying to make a story. Again, that's aside from this story. They were trying to make other stories, and they didn't hold water. That's why I'm so proud of our community, in that it just didn't do that. I'm sorry. Al's got 1 minute. I'll go.
I just wanted to follow up on one thing you said. You said people use against you that not smart enough.
Yeah.
Has it hurt you in the last 3 or 4 years that I don't know what's changed in working your program, but you've become a program that's playing less players than you did through much of your career. Is there a reason for that, and has that been useful?
I don't know. I don't understand. I don't know.
I'm saying that you had 6 or 7 guys that play.
No, we'll play.
28 minutes.
No, we'll play. If you're recruiting a real good player, he's the guy who thinks he's going to play those minutes anyway. I mean, they like that. Kremen's recruited that. No, if we have more players who are ready to play, we'll play them. One of the things that I say, it's obviously hurt the number of guys we put in the pros, because we have more guys in the pros in the last 10 years than anybody. I mean, we can put any stat. Now, we're in a position about 2 weeks after the season was over. One of my guys, they bring all these kind of crazy stats that we have. And in the Boston College game, I coached my 1,000th game as a head coach, which kind of means you're old, And in the stat that they told me is that in about 20% of the games I've coached, we have been the number 1 team in the country. And I said, you're crazy. That can't be. I coached at Army, and were you here our first 3 years? And it's kind of crazy. It means we've lined up in 1/5 of our games as the number 1 team. That's an extreme. And when you're in that extreme, you should expect extreme response. Positive, negative, underhanded, and whatever, because it comes with the territory. And so when we deal with things like what you're saying, okay, that means you can't. And the other thing we tell a recruit is, why aren't they talking about their own program? In the 31 years I've coached, I've never said one word about another program. I mean, you can't. How am I going to prove that? I got all these tapes for you they're missing spots, by the way. I just wouldn't do that. We got too much to say about Duke and our program. I've never talked about another school, and wouldn't discredit another school in that regard. And because obviously a kid should go where he wants to go, not because he's tricked. He shouldn't be tricked into or scared. What would happen if you brought a kid in here and you scared him to come to Duke? Well, that's a great basis of a relationship. I mean, I don't like that, and that's why we have such great relationships with our guys. And if we lose a kid because he got, whatever, then it's the way it is. I'm sorry, Bob.
After losing 6 seniors, how reliant will you be on this freshman class? I mean, there's
A lot.
huge holes. What will you expect?
Yeah, well, but that's exciting for us, I mean, that's one of the great things about college sports is there is turnover, and those seniors did a great job for us, obviously, but we won't have any seniors. We have one junior, DeMarcus, who hopefully is going to stay healthy the whole year. And our younger guys are going to have to be older. We do feel very good about the 4 freshmen, though. Gerald, I think he's physically and emotionally ready. John is an outstanding player. Brian is big, and he'll be able to help us. And Lance is a warrior. I mean, and this experience, if he makes this team, will help him. Even if he doesn't make the team, it'll still help him. So yeah, they're going to play. We could have freshmen starting. We'll actually be deeper and dispel the stigma that Featherstone's putting on me, that I only play 4 guys. And it would be because of Al saying that we're doing it. Just so you take credit for that, Al.
Did you have any inkling last summer that in 3 days you could get 3 outstanding players?
For those guys, we thought they would come to Duke. I didn't necessarily, it doesn't matter to me if it was in 3 consecutive days, or it just worked out that way. And then we paid the price that the 4th guy we got, we had to wait. We had to mail in for extra days, we were wondering if, by sophomore year in college, if he would commit.
Mike, you sent up Sheldon last year about whether or not to enter the draft at that point.
Yeah.
Did you guys factor in at all that there would be this year in which there would not be any high school early entrance? When you talk to your players, do you factor in that sort of thing? What the rest of the field?
Well, you factor in everything, but for Sheldon, that wasn't the major thing. With Sheldon, he was going to be picked at the best in the last 10 of the first round, and he's just a better player than that. And really, all the seniors did a good job, but nobody is more conscientious than Sheldon. He's really, truly one of the great guys, and we thought he could be in the top 10, and he will be. He'll actually be in a position that will probably shock some people. Not me, but and he's just done it right. He's done the kid just does everything. He's a man of his word, and you would ask all of them. They're happy that they did that. He also comes in ready to play. He could end up being a starter in the NBA, which, see, that's one of the critical things about going early, is your second contract comes earlier. And so if you're a good player or a starter right away, your value is increased, and you don't make as much money in your first contract as you do potentially in your second. So if you can, it's different for each kid. But in Sheldon's case, it's not just that this year will be better, it's that 3 years from now will be a lot better. And that's how you have to look at it.
Even though they're different players, do you get a sense at all that maybe the success that Carlos Boozer had maybe helps scouts about, maybe give a different look at Duke?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think the success of any of the players has it. The success that Daniel and Chris have had helped Sean. That maybe somebody would take him in the second round because Duhan and Ewing were picked in the second round, and Duhan has done great. Daniel just finished. He was on the Clippers, and he's established in himself now. But they're in. Daniel's in the league, and Duhan will be in the league forever. He's just that good.
With your position with USA Basketball, is this 12-month cycle about as busy a time as you've ever had as a professional? And if so, how are you pacing yourself?
Yes, it has been. I've just been the busiest year of my life, by far. Pacing myself by having people help me make good decisions. When Mickey and I talked about this, we said that we're honored. It's a huge honor and a huge commitment. And there are three priorities: our family, our Duke program, and USA basketball. And that some other things were going to have to be cut. And like my outside speaking, I've cut that like 90%. So there's a financial commitment you make to that too, which is fine, and I'm okay. I will eat supper tonight well. So I'm not complaining about anything. But more so is we've had to condense the summer. I did get a chance to spend a lot of time with my family down at the beach during May instead of August. We've spent some family time earlier, and my family has adjusted their schedules to figure that out. And the infrastructure of our Duke program is so strong. Johnny Dawkins could run any program in the country. Maybe if he could do this. He could be right in front of here right now and do this every bit as well as me. And I think Steve and Chris have the potential to do that too. So, but I have a strong program. I have people who will step up, and they have, and so that's made it a lot easier for me. And they're going to have to continue to step up.
We were visiting with Sidney Lowe last week.
Yeah.
You gave him a call to say congratulations
Yeah.
on the league. Can you talk about him as the newcomer into the league, without having college coaching experience, and the experience that he brings in is different from the NBA perspective?
Well, he's a good guy, first of all, and he's a state guy, and he's been a really good coach. So he covers all those bases. He just hasn't been in college. And I think one of the things the main thing that he did, he really has surrounded himself with a terrific staff. So I think they'll do a real good job. We're friends. He and Johnny are real good friends. So we're just supportive of him in that regard. We're going to try to beat him when we play him, obviously. But he's a good man, and they lost a good man.
Tempo next year.
Tempo?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said Tempo. I was just with Fran Dunphy. Which is interesting. I might tell you, I'm with Fran Dunphy. We have all these coaches, for the trials down in San Antonio. I'll get right back to you, I promise. It's a good thing. So Dunphy he and I played ball in the Army together, and he played and I watched, but it was still we were on the same team. So he's been at Penn all these years, right? He's been great. They've dominated the Ivy League. So they're introducing to the players the trials coaches, or all the coaches who are there. And I'm standing and I said, and Fran Dunphy, Temple. Temple? It didn't, so he and I was goofing with it. Temple, not that Temple isn't great, but he says, you know what? And this is pretty good. He said, last week, he says, it is hard to get accustomed. I was a Penn coach for so long. He said, I put a sweatshirt on of Temple, and I just stood in front of the mirror. And I just stood there for a long time. I got to get accustomed to seeing myself as the Temple coach. It was a neat thing. So when you said Temple, Dunph is still on my mind.
I was actually just over his shoulder there. Now, could you talk about how this team is going to play next year, given with the, lack of experience?
I don't know yet. I think you have to watch them, and we're going to play more players. In fact, we're going to play all 11 of our players. When Al sees that green team come in, he's going to say, I was responsible for that. And no, but we're going to play more people, because one thing with younger guys is more of a chance of some inconsistencies. There's more of a chance of using emotional energy and getting tired, and that's what happens. And but we're going to need Greg to be a leader. We're going to need Josh to be an outstanding player, and we're going to need a healthy DeMarcus, because he will be a really good player if he's just healthy. That's a given. I think you start out with those three guys and you kind of build from there. Like you would my U.S. team, I start with Kobe, LeBron, and Dwayne Wade. Somehow I got to make sure they're on the court. I'm a better coach if they're on the court. And so that's how I look at our team next year to start off with. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask you, are you involved at all in the development of code of conduct for
Yeah.
athletics in general, and can you talk about that a little bit?
It's in the process of being developed. Actually, a good base is what the lacrosse team came up with. But each team kind of has had at least ours is kind of an unwritten code of conduct, or each team has had rules. Our first rule with a team is don't do anything detrimental to yourself or to our program. That gives me a lot of latitude so that I can judge what's detrimental to them and as a freshman or as a senior. And I think as we come up with these new set of code of conduct and over, we have to be careful that we allow the latitude to lead and not just rule. The latitude to lead is huge in teaching and having whether it be a good team, a good university, or whatever, that you don't let a rule govern what you do. You let a principle govern what you do, a value. And to be quite frank with you, I'd rather instead of a code of conduct, I'd rather have a code of values. What are the values that we have? And adhere to those values, and that would be the mistake that you would make, is not adhering to the values. At this time, it's a very exciting time for our athletic department, because we're in the process of clearing ground soon for a new practice facility, which will connect right here. Actually, I had some drawings right in here. Let me just show you. I didn't bring this for that, but there's this one picture. This will be this huge thing right here would be right at the end of Cameron, like where the front of Cameron, where our athletic office or Joe's office is, and that this would be right to towards the baseball field. And what that is, that's the new academic support center. Our academic support isn't big enough. So this building will produce amazing opportunities that weren't afforded our athletes beforehand. Down on the other end, there's going to be a huge meeting area, like a space where you could actually get 300-400 people together. There'll be a couple floors where we'll now create office space for new programs, new counseling programs, new development programs, new thing. And so this building is coming at a time where someone's going to say, well, we need some, 2 courts. It's not even. It's a center for academic and athletic excellence. I call it a center for excellent human performance. And it comes at a good time, because we're going to come up with these programs, not just a code of conduct or a code of values. We're going to actually put into principals some of these counseling services and things like that that will be easier, user-friendly for our student athletes to go to. This academic center, they can walk right from their locker rooms or whatever, instead of getting on elevators and putting fingerprints and all that kind of stuff that we make them do. That's the amusement park elevator that we have.
Anything else?
I'd like to follow up on two things that you said earlier
Yeah.
today. The first is that you talked about the behind-the-scenes support.
Yeah, yeah.
And talking about what they have been through, and you also shared with us a little bit how it's difficult for you to help them. Tell us how this has affected you personally.
Well, personally, I just, at the end of the day, you're somebody's friend, or you're not somebody's friend. And in our athletic department, I think people are friends. And so it just means that you need to be more of a friend, or they were friends to you, at certain times. That's how relationships are built. So that hasn't put any strain on us or whatever. I mean,
Has it been difficult for you, or has it put a strain on you? Or?
No, the only difficult thing is to see people, like, okay, to see, like the Presslers, their whole life changed, and their kids, and it's not easy. And I think any coach could put themselves in that position, like it can happen to you. A year ago, a little bit over a year ago, he was playing for the national championship and almost won it, and had a team coming back that could win it, might have been, and the whole thing changed. You have to have empathy for people in those situations. His wife is one of the really neat people in the whole world, and a couple times, one specific time for our family when we were going through a tragedy, Sue Presser was there 4 straight days. I don't know when she slept, and was there to say, what can I do? I don't know if that put a strain as much as it said, oh, I'm lucky that you're my friend. And I would hope that they would say the same about us. And and that's just part of living, is to do it that way. Those, you should be there. And we should be there as a community for things. We should be there as a university for things, and go forward like that. I feel badly for everybody involved in this situation. I mean, because it's not resolved. Once it's resolved, then definitive action can be taken. Until then, support should be given, because they deserve that. Every human being deserves support. And especially a university needs the support. That's what we're here. We're here to teach, support, and have people grow.
And the second thing I wanted to follow up on was, you talked about the DWI with JJ,
Yeah.
and how it's an isolated incident. Can you share with us a little bit more your conversation with him? Were there any extenuating circumstances?
I'm not going to go through, it doesn't matter what extent he shouldn't have done it. Forget about, like, we have a thing, there's no excuse for that. It's like, whatever happened, you stop at the point of doing that. He didn't, it's wrong. My main thing with JJ is, let's get on. Take responsibility, let's go. I love you, you were an idiot. Let's get going. But I'm going to be I'm going to be right next to him. Like, I'm not going to flush him down or throw him down the drain. Let's put it that way. He's my friend too, and I don't know if there are many people who have. Are you someone's friend until they do something, until they make a mistake, or are you a friend no matter what? And my best friend of all time is working our camp. We've been friends since we were 6 years old, my buddy Mo. I'm going to be there for him. He's going to be there for me. And I think, and that's the way I would like to have this whole situation have been done. Yeah, and if whatever we can do to, help in that healing process, once this is finished, we will be there. Our program and the Krzyzewski family will be there in our community to help that, just like I think we have been in the past. But we don't want to get in the way of that process, because that's a process that governs our society, and we need to let it run its course.
Can I ask you one quick question
Yeah.
about another friend? In '93, when you guys played at NC State, they had the reunion of the '83 championship team before that game, and Coach Valvano was there.
Yeah.
How difficult of a day was that for you?
Oh, that was a tough day.
Was that the worst of your coaching career?
Well, to be quite frank, in some ways, I think Jimmy was cheering for us that day, because State, in the history of State, I think a lot of people think that they treated him great all the time, but at the end, they didn't treat him so well. So I told him, actually, before the game, I said, we're going to try to kick their ass anyway, all right? And
What did he say back?
he understood. He and I were very, very close, especially at the last couple of years. So, but that was a tremendous day, a unifying day for State. And that was the beauty of that before he did pass away, he could see that. That was, and the outcome of the game was different. It was two separate events. Yeah.
You mentioned the USA staff.
I'm sorry?
You mentioned the USA staff. Could you quickly talk about some of the quality that no one brings to that staff?
That they bring?
That Nate McMillan.
Oh, Nate's, he's a stud. Yeah, I mean, he's, the experience, first of all, he's an outstanding player in the NBA, and he's been at two franchises now as a head coach. He's a really good defensive coach and a disciplinarian. I know when we're in a tough situation, if I look to my right or my left, I'll see him someplace. At our meetings that we had in Phoenix, he was so impressive. He and D'Antoni and Boeheim and I we're very, very close friends. And a huge story of that team is Rudy Tomjanovich. Rudy Tomjanovich is going to direct the scouting for our national program for the next 3 years. Rudy Tomjanovich was our Olympic coach in 2000. They won the Olympic gold medal for him, and he's been an accomplished world championship coach. He's coming back to direct the scouting for us. So, that was my first. What the hell are you doing here? He says, look, I said, well, man, thank you. So we're seeing that type of spirit at this national level, which is so exciting. Guys like that. No one writes a story about Rudy Tomjanovich doing that. It's a heck of a thing. You write a really good book, you go back to your hometown newspaper, so to speak, and write that, no big time or anything. He's just going to, good man. Okay?